So Christian communicators loving their listeners seems like a strange concept. I think for a lot of preachers, we feel like maybe we talk about loving God, and maybe we think about our listeners loving God, but us loving our listeners. But I think that's a really important element of effective preaching or effective communication, because it's a relational situation. There's a connection that should be occurring between the speaker and the listeners. And so as a listener, you can tell if somebody stands up in front of you to speak and they don't really care about you, they're just doing what they need to do, or they're very excited about themselves. You can tell. It's not that you put it into words or you consciously evaluate it. You just have this deep down sense that this isn't really working. And so the importance of that connection, I think, is really significant in preaching. And it will show in non-verbals, it will show in the way that we phrase things, it will show in the work that we've put in to make the message understandable, to make it show how it's relevant to our listeners. But where does that come from? And that's, I suppose, the key issue is not should we have it. I think once you start thinking about it, we can see that we should. But where do we get that love for our listeners from? And I was really helped by a book called Deep Preaching by Kent Edwards. And in that book, Kent Edwards says that he's heard a lot of technically precise sermons where people, students in class, have followed the procedure and they've developed a message and it's accurate. But he said so often it just feels so shallow. It doesn't have that depth. And what his conclusion was to say, okay, once you've studied the passage and you've figured out what it means, before you start figuring out how to communicate it to your listeners, step aside from the desk, go away from the process, and bring before God, in your one hand, the fruit of your study, but on the other side, on the other hand, you bring in the listeners, and you say, okay, Lord, here I am. Here's the fruit of my study, but here are the listeners. And I want to love these people, but I don't love them like you do. And I want to know what your heart for them is. Give me your heart. Give me a glimpse of how you love them and how this passage can make a difference for them and what they need from this. And he said, just don't come out of there. Don't leave that time of prayer until you've caught a glimpse of God's heart for your listeners. Because we love in response to God's love. He's the love initiator, not us. And I know for myself as a preacher, there are times where I'm not overflowing with love, but God is. And so if I will take the time to go and spend time with Him, talk it through with Him, plead with Him to give me that, then hopefully as I work through the preparation of the message, as I come to deliver the message, hopefully that will show. Not because I'm pretending, because you can't fake. You can pretend, but you can't fake love. But hopefully it flows out because it's there. And so for me, that's the most effective way to develop love, is to come to God and ask for it and say, give me your heart for these people.